Hey guys, it's Ahmed Ebenezer again from Samani Enterprise Tutors. And in our last tutorial, we talked about the for loop. Okay, so we're talking about looping, and then we talked about for loops. And then I said looping is a continuous execution of a particular block of code until a condition is false. Okay, so for our for loop, I'll just go by it again so we understand. This is our initializer, this is our condition, and then this is our increment. So this is responsible, this is the condition. Once this condition becomes false, then the whole execution of code, or the whole execution of this block of code, stops, and then execution of code moves to the next line below the loop. So I'll run this again, of which that is not our tutorial today. Our tutorial we're going to be looking at today is nested loops. Alright, so we're going to be looking at nested loop, a loop inside another loop. I'm going to be looking at how it works, and I'm going to be explaining the syntax, and then I'm going to be explaining it to you totally how it works in a different manner, of which I'm not sure you have seen before. Alright, I'm sorry, the baby is slow. Alright, so run a Java application. Okay, so this is just a normal for loop. It's going to iterate 1, 2, and then 3 times. You're going to have 3 iterations because the limiter says less than or equals to 20. Right, so let's wait for the result on the console. I'm supposed to bring out 0, 10, and 20 as the loop results now. Sorry for how slow my system is. Promise to get another one. So 0, 10, 20. Okay, so that is how a loop, a normal loop works. Now let me explain this because it might get a little bit might get a little bit hard, a little bit hard to understand. Now in every loop, in every iteration now, this limiter value that we're using is being increased based on this on this statement. So if I was to make this a nested for loop, I would then say for. Okay, so let me give another variable. So I would then say limiter 2 is equals to 0. Limiter 2 now is less than, let's say, 5, so that we can understand this. Then limiter 2 plus plus. Okay, so let me change this. Let me use let me try and use multiplication so that we can understand this. Okay, so system.out.print line. Okay, system.out. Really slow today. Print line. Okay, so if I was to, I would say limiter times. Okay, this should be limiter 2. Just follow, I would explain. Concatenate the strings plus limiter is equals to, okay, limiter times limiter 2. Let's concatenate this here. Okay, so let's run this, and then I hope we understand now. So you right click anywhere on your your developers panel, and then run as Java application. Okay, now this is better. I could use this to explain. Okay, now this inner loop, this inner for loop, will first be executed now from 0 to finish. Now, okay, let me start from here. Once code execution reaches here, it enters this for loop with one value. That's the first iteration value of limiter. Now, for the first iteration, the value of limiter is 0. It then enters this. Now, the first iteration of limiter 2 is 0. So, therefore, what will come out is limiter 2 would be 0. Then this will be 0 plus 0 times 0 now will be equals to 0. Okay, but on having this limiter value as 0, this inner loop will end from the first value, which is 0, to the last value, which is less than 5, which is 4. It will execute while this limiter value will still remain as 0. So as you can see, this is the value of limiter 2. All right, to make this so we can understand it better, I'll just put a text here that says limiter 2 plus, put another text here that says limiter itself. Okay, so we would understand that this way. All right. Okay, make it my enable so that we don't confuse ourselves. Okay, so run again as Java application. All right, now here we go. Now you see this is the value of limiter 2 from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can see the limiter value does not change for the first iteration. So on the first iteration, limiter will have the value of 0. So in other words, the outer loop serves as the limit for the inner loop. Okay, the outer loop serves as the limit of the inner loop. So once this becomes 5, once this iteration has gone on for 5 times, then once this statement or this condition is false, then the total looping ends. So let me keep on explaining. On the first iteration, limiter, its value is 0. It brings in that value into this inner loop, and that value remains 0 until this inner loop is done executing its first iteration. Then it comes out, goes into the outer loop again. Then according to our increment condition, the limiter increases its value by 1. That means on the second iteration, the value of limiter would be 1, which is this. Then it will bring in that 1 into this inner loop, and then this inner loop will execute from beginning to end. That is why we can see this ends the first iteration, and then on the second iteration we move from 0, 1, 2, 3 to 4, all multiplying just number 1, meaning that the value of limiter in the inner loop still remains the same until the inner loop is done executing itself from beginning to end. Okay, so on the third iteration, we can see that the value of limiter increases by 1, remains the same till the whole inner loop is being executed to finish. Then on the fourth iteration, now limiter increases its value by 1. That 1 remains the same throughout the execution of the whole inner loop, and then like that on this one we can see that it remains the same. 4 remains the same all through, okay, throughout the inner loop execution. And then on this one we can see that limiter retains its value as 5, and then the inner loop. So how it works again, the outer loop, the value for limiter maintains its, the variable limiter maintains its value throughout the inner loop. So while this limiter 2 will be increasing based on this increment statement, limiter remains the same throughout this inner loop. It is when this inner loop has finished its own first iteration and then this outer loop starts its second iteration, the limiter value will increase by 1, remain the same throughout the total execution of this. So in other words, we can use this to come up with a simple multiplication table. 0 times, from 0 till 12. And then how do we do that? If we are to do that, all we'll just do, okay, so if we are to do that, let's quickly make a simple multiplication table. This will be 12. Okay, this will be 12. So we'll say system.out.println now. Then we'll say limiter 2, okay, string concatenation multiplied by, all right, limiter is equals to plus limiter times limiter 2. Okay, so I'll concat this well. Okay, concatenation. Okay, so let's execute this. You see we'll come up with a simple multiplication table. Alright, so there you go. So this is from 0, but if we don't want it to begin from 0, we can always change the initializer from 0 to 1 and then run as application. Alright, so that's how the inner loop, see, 1 times 1 all the way to 12. Then the outer loop value increases by 1 all the way to 12 for the inner loop. The outer loop increases by 1 all the way to 12 for the inner loop. Again, the outer loop increases by 1 all the way to 12. So I hope you understand the concept now. If you have any problem, if you run into any error, please feel free to comment below, and then I would be open to fix it and then to walk you through on how you can make it better and how you can fix it. I hope you've learned. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for my next tutorial. God bless you.